So hello and welcome back all students again to another video tutorial from Genome Biotech. And see, in our last lecture, we have been talking about a cyclic mechanism for the removal of the excess nitrogen from our body. That cyclic mechanism was referred to as the urea cycle, and this cyclic mechanism was taking place in specialized cells of the liver. Those were referred to as hepatocytes. So within the hepatocytes, a cyclic array of reaction is taking place, and that cyclic array of reaction is involved in the removal of excess nitrogen. So the nitrogen has to be removed from the body, which is being produced from the degradation of different types of biomolecules, and that removal is being catalyzed with the help of the arginase enzyme, which is exclusively found only in the case of hepatocytes. Okay, so there was the arginase enzyme. Now we have already seen that there are three ATP molecules which have been wasted apart. There are three ATP molecules which have been lost. And now what we have to study here is that which are the different types of malformation, which are the different types of diseases that can occur if the urea cycle is not operating in a perfect manner. अगर यूरिया साइकिल अच्छे से काम नहीं कर रही है तो कौन कौन सी डिसीजेस हो सकती हैं, विच आर द प्रोबेबल डिसीजेस दैट कैन अकर इन एन organism. Okay, so the first disease that we are going to look forward is referred to as the hyperammonia. Okay, what do you mean by hyperammonia? When there is an elevated level of ammonia present in the body, then the condition is referred to as hyperammonia. Okay, when there is an elevated level of ammonia present in the body, then the condition is called as hyperammonia. Hyperammonia is a condition in which the concentration of amino group is excessively large. That is, it is much more larger than the normal content that should be present in the body. It is greater than 60 micromole in the blood. Elevated concentration of ammonia are serious. Now see, supposingly if urea cycle is not taking place, then what will happen? Then it will lead to a condition that is referred to as hyperammonia, in which there would be an excessively high amount of ammonia that would be present in the body. When this high amount of ammonia is present, it could lead to serious consequences, and those consequences include the toxicity of the ammonia, leading to lethargy, tremors, slurred speech, the blurred vision, protein-induced vomiting, coma, and ultimately it will lead to the death of an individual. So such type of hyperammonia can take place if there is an enzymatic deficiency or if the liver is damaged. Okay, so if the liver is being damaged, then hyperammonia can take place. Okay, now we would be talking about a very important factor, that is regulation of the urea cycle. How does urea cycle is being regulated? Now see, there is a golden rule in biochemistry. Every pathway in biochemistry is always regulated at least at its first step. The most effective step for regulating any biochemical pathway is always the first step. Every reaction in a biochemical pathway is regulated at its first step. Okay, this is a general golden rule. Okay, this is a golden rule that need to be followed. So every reaction which is present in the biochemical pathway must be regulated at its first step. Okay, so if the biochemical pathway is going to take place, so which is the most important step? The probably the most important step that is present is always the first step. The first step always referred to as the as the most important step. Okay, now the urea cycle operates only to eliminate the excess nitrogen atom. So okay, so urea cycle was there, and this urea cycle was able to eliminate the excess nitrogen atom. Now when a person is on a high protein diet, okay, so the proteins are going to be degraded. Okay, if the proteins degrade, then what will happen? Then it will lead to the production of high amount of ammonia. That ammonia could be eliminated from the bodies with the help of urea cycle. Okay, so it is the urea cycle that will be eliminating that high amount of ammonia. Okay, on high protein diet, the carbon skeleton of the amino acid are oxidized, or they are being used in the cellular respiration pathway. Okay, But now what happens with the other molecules? The other molecules that are present, that is the amino group nitrogen atom must be excreted out. Now how this amino group nitrogen atom is to be excreted out? The amino group nitrogen atom is being excreted out from the body by the sequential release of this nitrogen atom in the form of ammonia. To facilitate this process, enzymes of the urea cycle are controlled at the gene level. The enzymes of the urea cycle, they are being controlled at gene level. Now how they are being controlled, that we have to see. There is an enzyme, the first enzyme. See, I have already told you, every reaction in a biochemical pathway is being regulated at its first step. So first step being the most important step. So as I have already told you that, see, the which is the most important in the step, the first step is always the most important step. So what has to be done here is that, see, if you take very large amount of protein, or if you take carnivorous diet, if you take animals, you are eating fish, meat, etc., at a very high concentration, then there would be a short-term regulation cycle in which the carboyl phosphate synthase activity will be enhanced. Okay, whose activity will be enhanced? Carbamoyl phosphate synthetase activity will be enhanced. This enzyme activity will be enhanced if you are taking a very high protein diet along with food. Okay, so let me just underline this particular point. Now there are two different types of regulations that can take place in the case of urea cycle. One is called as the short term regulation. This is the short term regulation. Okay, this is the first regulation, or the short term regulation. Okay, and another one would be referred to as the long term regulation. It would be given. Okay, this is short-term regulation. In this short-term regulation, the primary enzyme that is being involved is referred to as carboyl phosphate synthetase type 1. That is referred to as CPS1. You know that where is the CPS1? The CPS1 was the first enzyme of the biochemical pathway. You can look here. Where is CPS1? This is CPS1. Carboyl phosphate synthetase type 1 was the first enzyme of the biochemical pathway which was involved in the urea cycle. Okay, now what has to be done here is that, which is relatively inactive in the absence of its allosteric activator N-acetyl glutamate. The metabolite is synthesized from glutamate and acetyl coenzyme A by N-acetyl glutamate synthetase. Now see this, if you take very large amount of protein rich diet, you are taking a carnivore diet, you are taking meat, you are taking eggs to a very high amount, then what will happen? There would be an increased expression of the CPS1 gene, carboyl phosphate synthetase gene. Okay, and this, which is relatively inactive in the absence of its allosteric activator N-acetyl glutamate. Now see this, N-acetyl glutamate is an allosteric activator of CPS1. So I'm just going to draw this structure. If CPS1 is like this enzyme, okay, let this enzyme be CPS1. Okay, CPS1. This enzyme is CPS1. Now, when this enzyme, which is referred to as CPS1, this enzyme will now be able to interact with another. It has an allosteric modulator, and that allosteric modulator is N-acetyl glutamate. It is interacting with another allosteric modulator, and this is N-acetyl glutamate. Okay, this modulator is N-acetyl glutamate. So, see what will happen. Acetyl coenzyme A will combine with glutamate and will lead to the overproduction of, it will lead to the overproduction of the enzyme, that is N-acetyl glutamate. N-acetyl glutamate will increase the expression of CPS1. See, N-acetyl glutamate is going to increase the expression of CPS1. हिंदी में भी समझ लेते हैं. देखिए CPS1 ही एक एंजाइम है जो पूरी की पूरी यूरिया साइकिल को कंट्रोल कर रहा है. CPS1 अगर कंट्रोल कर रहा है तो उसके अंदर हम क्या करते हैं? What do we do? We used to provide its allosteric modulator. हम उसका एक एलोस्टेरिक मॉड्यूलेटर उसे प्रोवाइड कर देते हैं. इसका एलोस्टेरिक मॉड्यूलेटर होगा तो ये एंजाइम कैसे काम करेगा? तेजी से काम करेगा. In the presence of its allosteric modulator, the enzyme is going to work in a much faster manner. Its rate of reaction is going to proceed at a much faster rate. See, the rate of reaction proceeds at a much faster rate. Okay, so there would be its enhanced rate of reaction that will be proceeding. Okay, so its rate of reaction is going to proceed much faster. When its rate of reaction is going to proceed much faster, then it will be able to use all the different types of protein as a substrate molecule. Protein molecules will be used as a substrate molecule for the degradation of other molecules, for the degradation of amino acids. Okay. Now, what should be done? That we have to understand. Just a second. Now, see, this is referred to as the temporal regulation of the urea cycle. This is the temporal regulation of the urea cycle. In a particular time period, what could be done? N-acetyl glutamate, it could be biosynthesized. That will lead to the overexpression of this particular enzyme CPS1. Now, when you are going to take regularly very large amount of protein containing diet, then what is going to happen? Then the problem cannot be solved by just by increasing the CPS1. There has to be a change at the genetic level. अगर आप लगातार प्रोटीन रिच डाइट ले रहे हैं तो CPS1 से कुछ नहीं होने वाला. CPS1 के अलावा आपको जेनेटिक लेवल पे भी आपके जीनोम में चेंजेस आने लगेंगे. There would be, when you will be taking very regular amount of high amount of protein, regular changes will be involved, not only in the expression of CPS1 but also in your genes. Now, how those regulations are going to arrive, that we have to see this. Increase urea, I would be just removing all the annotations. Okay. Now, as well as this particular sentence. Okay. Now, increased urea synthesis is required when amino acid breakdown rate increases, greatly exceed generating excess nitrogen that must be excreted. Okay, increase in these breakdown rates are signaled by an increase in glutamate concentration through transamination reaction. The situation in turn causes an increase in N-acetyl glutamate synthesis, simultaneously carboyl phosphate synthesis, and thus the entire urea cycle. There are two pathways that are operational. One is referred to as short-term regulation. Short-term regulation was referred to as the A pathway. Okay, I'm showing it to you. This pathway was referred to as the short-term regulation. There would be another pathway that would be referred to as the long-term regulation. Now, what is this long-term regulation that we have to see? Let us look at Pathfinder. Now, see, this is the urea cycle. Now, I'm just going to talk about the regulation of the urea cycle. See this. The regulation of the urea cycle takes place by the regulation of the enzyme, the carboyl phosphate synthetase. The enzyme carboyl phosphate synthetase catalyzes the rate limiting step of the urea cycle. Okay. The enzyme carboyl phosphate synthetase catalyzes the rate limiting step of the urea cycle. Okay. Therefore, the interhepatic concentration, now see this, the N-acetyl glutamine is being synthesized from acetyl coenzyme A and glutamate. N-acetyl synthase is going to take place. Okay, so their synthesis is going to take place. If you are going to take very large amount of protein for a very longer period of time, then there would be another change that will occur, and that change will be in the B section. In the B section, that is referred to as long-term regulation. Long-term regulation of the urea cycle. This long-term regulation involves the overexpression. This long-term regulation involves the overexpression. It involves the overexpression of the carboyl phosphate synthetase 1 genes. Okay, thus catalyzing enhanced urea cycle. Thus catalyzing enhanced urea cycle operation. So, okay, so the urea cycle is going to take place at a much faster rate, because what is going to happen? Because there is a long-term regulation of the urea cycle that has taken place. Because of this long-term regulation, such type of things may appear. Okay, there would be an increased expression of the enzyme, and that is referred to as CPS1. Again, the same enzyme is being expressed, but at an increasing concentration. Overexpression of the enzyme, that is referred to as CPS1 gene. This is referred to as long-term regulation of the urea cycle. Hopefully, this all will be given in your books. If it is not given, you can just note it down from the video lectures that are available. Some of the video lectures have not been uploaded. I would be uploading them also, so that you can visualize all the different video lectures again and again through a YouTube channel. The link will also be provided. Okay, so no issues with that. Now moving forward, now we are at the end of the entire amino acid metabolism. It is the last part of the amino acid metabolism. So the catabolism of amino acid carbon skeleton. Now how the catabolism of amino acid carbon skeleton is going to take place? The carbon skeleton, as I have told you in my previous lecture, see this the chart that you were talking about previously, just day before yesterday. In that chart, we have already seen that if there is a protein, there is a carbon skeleton which is present, and there is the amino group which is present. So this carbon skeleton has to be degraded. Now, how this carbon skeleton will be degraded? The amino acids can be of two different types on the basis of their catabolism. They could be either categorized into the one that could get converted into the glycolytic cycle intermediates or glucogenic, and the other that is referred to as the ketogenic. So the amino acids can be effectively classified as glucogenic or could be classified as ketogenic in nature. So those are the two different types of amino acids that are present. Now, which are the glucogenic amino acids, which are the ketogenic amino acids? Now, all the amino acids are glucogenic in nature except the two. The lysine and leucine are the only two amino acids that are solely ketogenic in nature, giving rise to acetyl coenzyme A and acetyl coenzyme A. So, if lysine and leucine are to be degraded, then they must be degraded in the form of acetyl coenzyme A or in the form of acetyl coenzyme A. Okay, so acetyl coenzyme A or acetyl coenzyme A could be produced. See here, all amino acids except lysine and leucine have the least participation in the in the glycogenic degradation. Okay, so see, lysine and leucine are the only two amino acids. These are the only two amino acids. Lysine and leucine are the only two amino acids that are solely ketogenic in nature. And these are the two amino acids that give rise to the acetyl coenzyme A or acetyl coenzyme A. Okay, but they never lead to the formation of glucose molecules. Whereas some others, a small group containing amino acids, are both glucogenic and ketogenic in nature because they can be degraded in the form of glucose intermediate or in the case of fatty acid intermediates. Now let us have a look at the trick how we can remember these amino acids, how we can memorize them up, that which is glucogenic, which is ketogenic in nature. Okay, there is a student. Okay, if you feel any query, any problem, you can ask me. Any problem, any students. Just a second. I'm looking for a trick for you all. Okay, so those were referred to as the ketogenic amino acid and others were referred to as the glucogenic amino acid. Now see, this question has been asked 2 to 3 number of times. Okay, what was the question? The question was very simple, that which are the two amino acids that are solely ketogenic in nature, and those two amino acids are lysine and leucine, which are solely ketogenic in nature. Okay, just a second. Now see, I'm just sharing an image with you all so that you can look at that particular image and remember all the things that I have told you. Now, looking at this particular image, just a second. So this is the trick how you can remember the different types of amino acids. See, there are two amino acids that are ketogenic. They can be effectively remembered only lysine and leucine. Now, there are others which are glucogenic. You didn't have to remember them. You didn't have to remember them. You have to remember only those which are common. which are both ketogenic as well as glucogenic in nature. This is common. They are common in the case of ketogenic as well as glucogenic in nature, and they can be effectively remembered via a trick. The trick is Wi-Fi. Okay. Now W for tryptophan, I for isoleucine, F for phenylalanine, uh, W for tryptophan. Okay, so I am doing tryptophan. I for isoleucine, F for phenylalanine, and then there is your threonine. Uh, Oh, hello. Just sorry. There was an interconnection. There was an error. No problem. I'm just moving to that particular page. Probably my voice was also not here, not able to. You were not able to hear. Please look at the page that is being shown to you. Now, this is ketogenic. These two must be remembered. One is referred to as the lysine, another one is referred to as the leucine. There are three amino acids, and those three amino acids are there are five amino acids which are both ketogenic as well as glucogenic. They can be degraded in the form of intermediates such as acetoacetate, or they can be degraded in the form of glycolysis or Krebs cycle intermediate. Thus, they are said to be both ketogenic as well as glucogenic. Now see this, देखिए इनको कीटोजेनिक और ग्लूकोजेनिक इसलिए कहते हैं क्योंकि ये कीटोजेनिक की तरीके से यानी कि एस्टोएस्टेट में भी टूट सकते हैं और इंटरमीडिएट और ग्लाइकोलिटिक पाथवे में भी ब्रेक डाउन हो सकते हैं. They can be degraded via both method, either a formation of acetoacetate or the formation of glucose intermediate. Now looking forward, so these are the different amino acids. Okay, so they can be effectively remembered with a trick, and the trick is Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi T, Wi-Fi and T. Okay, now what do you mean by Wi-Fi T or T with Wi-Fi? Wi-Fi. Okay. Now, what do you mean by T with Wi-Fi? W stands for tryptophan. You know that the single letter of tryptophan is W. I stands for isoleucine. F stands for phenylalanine. Okay. And then this is phenylalanine. And the last one, T stands for the threonine amino acid. Okay. So those are the four different types. Those are the different amino acids: tryptophan, threonine, phenylalanine, and tyrosine, as well as isoleucine or Wi-Fi tie or tie tie with Wi-Fi. You can remember like this. Okay, Wi-Fi tie or tie with Wi-Fi. Okay, so Wi-Fi tie, W for tryptophan, I for isoleucine. This is phenylalanine. This is threonine, and the last one is being tyrosine. This is the only thing that could be done to make you all remember. Okay, so if you have any query, you can ask me. I'm allowing you to unmute yourself. You can unmute yourself as well as ask me. Likita, Neetu, Priyanshi, Trishla, any doubt? You must remember this. See, this is my local made trick. It is not a trick. Okay, that is synonymous to or could be remembered for everyone, but it will help you out. Okay, no problem. Now again, moving back to a topic. Now, there are 10 standard alpha amino acids that yield the acetyl coenzyme A. Okay, this group is further divided into several subcategories that can lead to the formation of different compounds. For example, now these need not to be memorized, or these need not to be remembered, because usually questions are not being asked. You will not find questions in the MCQ booklet out of this, but I have to teach it. That is why I will be just confining it out. So amino acid that forms the alpha ketoglutarate are the arginine, proline, histidine, glutamine, and glutamate. They are the one that will lead to the formation of alpha ketoglutarate. Amino acid that leads to the biosynthesis of the succinyl coenzyme A. Now, succinyl coenzyme A could be specially biosynthesized from the carbon skeleton of three amino acids, and those are methionine, isoleucine, and valine. This is not at all important, so you need not to memorize them up. Last one is oxaloacetate. Oxaloacetate can be easily being formed from both. They can be degraded. Aspartate and aspargine can be degraded to form oxaloacetate. Okay. Now, the things that are being asked. Now, there are more than 50 metabolic disorders that are being known to occur in the case of Homo sapiens, in the case of humans, arising from the complications in the case of amino acid catabolism. And those different types of disorders include albinism, alkaptonuria, homocystinuria, maple syrup urine disease, and phenylketonuria. Approximately 5 to 6 questions have been asked just from this particular chart. So this chart is very, very important. More than 5 to 6 number of questions have been asked. So that is why I request you all, please do memorize this chart up thoroughly, so that at least you can solve all those different types of questions. Okay, just a second. I'm trying to bring it in your vision, but I'm unable to. Probably now it will come. So this chart is of utmost importance from the Pathfinder. So you must memorize this particular chart, especially now the special questions which have been asked. I would be just dealing with those questions. Certain questions such as those. There is another one that has been produced. No problem now. Please look here. Certain questions have been asked, and the first question that was being asked, the most important among them, is referred to as the phenylketonuria. Phenylketonuria is a disorder that is being produced because of the absence of an enzyme, and that absence of an enzyme is phenylalanine hydroxylase enzyme. The absence of phenylalanine hydroxylase enzyme lead to the formation of phenylketonuria. We are going to look at its complete mechanism. The mechanism could be understood in the next diagram. Okay, homocystinuria, cystathione beta synthase deficiency, homogentasic acid oxidase deficiency, alkaptonuria, albinism, tyrosine monooxygenase deficiency. This disease is not usually asked. Maple syrup urine disease is not generally asked. Now, moving forward, that what happens and now what we have to study, how these diseases could be remembered. Now, see, you can look at this particular pathway that is being shown in the book Pathfinder, and this particular pathway will describe you the process how these molecules are being biosynthesized. Okay, I know that I have zoom. I cannot zoom in because the pathway will be lost. That is why now it's perfect. You would be able to visualize the entire pathway. Now see this. This is that enzyme. This is the enzyme that is referred to as phenylalanine hydroxylase enzyme. If this particular enzyme is being lost, if this particular enzyme phenylalanine hydroxylase is being lost, then the absence of this particular enzyme, the phenylalanine hydroxylase enzyme, will lead to the deficiency, will lead to a disease that is referred to as phenylketonuria. It will lead to the disease called as phenylketonuria. Similarly, there is a disease that is referred to as albinism. अल्बिनिज्म इन हिंदी इज कॉल्ड सूरजमुखी. जो लोग बहुत सफेद सफेद से होते हैं ना, एकदम बिल्कुल सफेद से, those who are completely whitish type of pupils, those look completely foreigners, such type of individuals are referred to as the albino individuals, and that disease is commonly called as albinism. In this disease, there is a deficiency of an enzyme that is referred to as tyrosinase. When there is deficiency of this enzyme tyrosinase, then the formation of 3,4-dihydroxyphenylalanine, that is referred to as DOPA, cannot take place. If this molecule cannot be biosynthesized, then it leads this deficiency, the inability to convert phenylalanine to tyrosine leads to phenylketonuria. Inability to convert tyrosine to dopamine or the dihydroxyphenylalanine leads to albinism. Inability to convert albinins to melanin, inability to convert the dopa into melanin also leads to albinism. Then the disease that will be produced will be referred to as albinism. Okay, the entire person will become completely whitish. There is another disease that is present that is referred to as tyrosinemia. Now, in the case of tyrosinemia, what is being done? In the case of tyrosinemia, there is a deficiency of the enzyme that is referred to as tyrosinamase. Okay, so this enzyme is deficient, then it leads to the disease that is referred to as tyrosine transaminase. This is the disease that is being caused. Okay, this is tyrosine transaminase. If there is a deficiency of this particular enzyme, then it will lead to the tyrosinemia second disease. Okay, this tyrosinemia second disease will be caused if there is deficiency of this particular enzyme. It leads to the formation of a complex compound that is referred to as para-hydroxyphenylpyruvic acid, which forms homogentasic acid. Homogentasic acid lead to the formation of ultimately lead to the formation of fumarate and acetoacetate. If there is an enzyme that is referred to as homogentasic acid oxidase, if this enzyme homogentasic acid oxidase is absent, then it will lead to the disease, and that is disease will refer to as alkaptonuria, which is commonly referred to as the black urine disease. Okay, it is referred to as the black urine disease. Okay, urine disease. All these diseases are being produced. Now, looking at Lippincott, you can get the structures of phenylalanine. Now, see what happens in the case of phenylalanine hydroxylase deficiency. This phenylalanine gets accumulated in the body. This phenylalanine accumulates. So I should just write PHE and write in bracket F. This means phenylalanine accumulates and forms different compounds. It leads to the biosynthesis of another compound that is referred to as phenyl acetic acid, phenyl lactic acid. It will lead to the formation of to form phenyl oxaloacetic acid, phenyl lactic acid, phenyl lactic acid. Okay, and they accumulates in the brain causing mental retardation. Accumulates in brain causing mental retardation. This is what is going to happen. Okay, so these types of things happen. I'm trying to look at it. Okay, so okay, I cannot. So this phenylalanine accumulates in the brain and it forms different types of compound, and thus the child who is suffering from this particular disease, that is phenylalanine hydroxylase deficiency, that child will be completely mentally retarded. Those students who have come late in today's class, see, please, in last lecture also class was being announced at a particular time. You should at least look at your WhatsApp on time. No problem if you have missed something, then the recording will be shared and you can look at it. Okay, your queries are always welcome. Now, moving forward, I'm just clearing all these drawings. You will get some other metabolic reaction pathway, and this entire metabolic reaction pathway written along with its structures in your group. Okay, a snapshot will be shared. Now you can look here. There are different molecules that have been derived from this particular amino acid derivative. Which are the different molecules which have been derived and which are being asked in different competitive examination? Questions have been asked from from oxen. Oxen is being biosynthesized from tryptophan. Okay. Questions have been asked from GABA. GABA is a neurotransmitter. It is being biosynthesized from glutamate. Serotonin is commonly referred to as the happy hormone. The persons become happy only when they take adequate amount of serotonin proteins. Okay, so serotonin has a modulator that is referred to as tryptophan. It is this tryptophan which is being formed from serotonin. Nitric oxide, okay, is being found from arginine. Very important compound. It is a biological messenger. It aids in the reproductive cycle, so that we will be looking forward. And histamine is the one which is being produced by the mast cells, and it is the one that will cause इन्फ्लामेशन एट द साइट ऑफ इंजरी. जहां पर भी आपको चोट लग जाती है ना, तो वहां पर हिस्टामीन ही सिक्रीट करते हैं मास्ट सेल. इसी की वजह से जहां पर भी आपको चोट लगती है वहां पर आपको स्वेलिंग हो जाती है. The swelling that appears at any site where you are injured in your body, that is because of the secretion of histamine by the mast cells, which produces histamine from histidine. Okay, now moving forward, this is all over. There are some basic sorry. Okay, now there are some basic biochemical pathways which are being given. Although you can look at them, but they are not of so much important that they can't. These cannot be asked in the biochemistry. These cannot be asked in the examination hall. So you just didn't have to pay headache over these metabolic pathways. Now, in according to theory, the entire portion is finished. Okay, there are certain things which are given. This line is very important. Now see, this is how histamine is being produced, how happy hormone, which is referred to as serotonin, is being produced. This is the hormone that is responsible for our happiness. Whenever we are happy, this serotonin is being produced. Okay, whenever we have an accident, we have an injury, histamine is being produced. Whenever you want to feel whenever you wanted to feel excited in your brain, there is a neurotransmitter called as gamma aminobutyric acid from glutamate which is being produced. Okay, now see this. This is very important. Now see, do you know that the chlorophyll as well as hemoglobin, they have certain things very common? See, in the prehistoric evolution of human beings or prehistoric evolution of life on earth, what happened? There were two different types of organisms. One was referred to as plant, another one was referred to as the animals. One was referred to as plant, another one was referred to as the animals. So this is plant and these are animals and bacteria. Now, in the case of plants, what happens is that there is the glutamate that is present. Glutamate serves as the precursor for the formation of delta aminolevulinic acid. Okay, it is this glutamate. So I'm using this green color for plant. Okay, now see, in the case of animals, when you are going to talk about animals, in the case of animals, probably this would be red color. No, sorry. So in the case of animals, what has to be done? In the case of animals, the precursor was actually present in the form of glycine and succinyl coenzyme, and they also led to the formation of delta aminolevulinic acid. Okay. Now this delta aminolevulinic acid gets converted into uroporphyrin third, or you can just do not remember this compound. Remember this compound, which is the protoporphyrin 9. It will form protoporphyrin 9. You know that protoporphyrin 9 is actually a connecting link in between the heme group present in eukaryotes, phycobilins which are present in algae, and the porphyrin ring or the chlorophyll A which is present in the case of plants. So you can see this. Protoporphyrin 9 indicates that hemoglobin, heme group of hemoglobin, phycobilins of algae, and chlorophylls of plants have been evolved from a simple single microbial protozoan. Okay, so what does this indicate? I am writing it out here. The evolution, of heme in hemoglobin, phycobilins in algae, and chlorophyll in case of plants. In case of chlorophyll in case of plants indicates that all of these evolved from a common ancestor. Okay, so common, which ancestor? Common protozoan ancestor. Common protozoan ancestor. This is what has been known. So you can write this particular point. This is very important. हिंदी में भी समझ लीजिए. देखो, अगर अगर आप देखते हैं कि प्रोटोपोरफायरिन 9 है. प्रोटोपोरफायरिन 9 देखो बेटा, प्लांट के अंदर भी बनता है ग्लूटामेट से, एनिमल के अंदर बनता है ग्लाइसिन और सक्सिनल कोएंजाइम से. ठीक है. और ये आगे चल के प्लांट के अंदर क्लोरोफिल को बनाता है, हीम बनाता है प्रोकैरियोट और यूकैरियोट में, और फाइकोबिलेंस बनाता है एल्गी के अंदर. तो अगर ये सारी चीजों को बना रहा है तो आप यहाँ पर इस बात को सोच सकते हैं कि प्रोटोपोरफायरिन 9 क्या है, एक कॉमन इंटरमीडिएट है जो आगे चल के सारे मॉलिक्यूल्स को बनाने वाला है. ठीक है. Thus protoporphyrin 9 is a common ancestor that will lead to the formation of all the different types of molecules. This is chlorophyll. Probably C has not come out. Oh, sorry. This is chlorophyll. Okay. So it is protoporphyrin 9 that serves as the common intermediate. Now moving forward, we are going to move forward. We will have to just removing all the annotations. Okay. This is what is given here, that how this protoporphyrin 9 and other molecules are being produced. That's all. Now there are questions that have to be answered. So I'm giving you some time. Uh, this we would be this all these types of interactions we are going to study in another lecture, because these will be solved to you. These will be told to you through another PDF that will be shared in the group, and through that PDF we will be talking about biological interaction from tomorrow. And now we have to discuss the different types of questions which are being asked in your book. So I give you today's time. Please complete all the different MCQs. And from today, if you have any query, we are going to discuss the different types of MCQ in our group. Okay. And you will be getting different MCQs also in your group to be solved from each and every topic, and you must solve them up. So from my side, amino acid metabolism is all over. This chapter has been completed. These are all the different questions that you can solve from this particular book. There is the book MCQ, which has also been shared in your group. You have that book in hard copy, as well as test and evaluation, as well as the DPP has also been shared. Daily practice sheet has also been shared in your group. No problem. Okay, so if you feel any issue, then you can write it to me. The class is all over, the topic is all finished. Okay. Probably Shalu, you joined late today because of some of the errors, as well as you were not able to receive the messages properly, and there was a problem with Ankita. She was not able to get the lecture because of network issues with her. So I would be sharing this lecture with you all, and you can have a look at it in your group as well as on YouTube. Okay, thank you. It's all over for today, and the entire chapter is finished. From tomorrow, we will be talking about water, the basic molecular biology, the basic interactions in the case of biochemistry. Please do solve your MCQs, and one by one, you can discuss the MCQs with me on the group, as well as I can give you timing of Zoom. Tomorrow, I would be available at Zoom from evening 6 o'clock till evening 8 o'clock for your queries. So in the group, you decide at which time you want to come. Along with your queries, you come so that I can make you solve. Okay, I can make all those queries solve and can provide you personal time. Okay, so I would be providing time slot to each and every student in the group where your queries will be solved. Thank you. Over and out for today. Bye bye.